Welcome back to the dev blog on Global Gambit, where we show you how to make a grand strategy style game. In this episode, we are going to be looking at making an army and hopefully having it go around and conquering some stuff. So before we start, let's just have a quick look at where we got to in the last video. So we've got a date bar in the corner and we can pause it, we can play it. So if I go on the slower speed, you can see it's slowly ticking off. And you can see our population goes up as well, and we can pause it directly right there. So in today's development blog, we are going to spawn an army, we're going to make the army clickable, and we're going to make the army move and capture regions. Okay, so to do these three things, we're going to need two things: a new node and a new scene. So on our main, we're just going to add a new child node and we're going to call it armies layer. And once we're happy with our new node, we're going to now start looking at making our new scene. So to make a new scene, you just go to scene, new scene, and then say what type of node is going to be at the root heart of it. Because it's another 2D node, we're just going to select a 2D scene. And we are just basically going to call this army. And what this is going to do is basically just represent every time we spawn in a new icon, it's going to go to the scene and then get the army information from here. And inside of our army 2D node, we're going to have a sprite 2D as a child of it. And we're going to rename this as our army sprite. Once you're happy with your sprite in your node, we're going to save it, and I'm just going to call mine army.tscn. We do need one more extra thing. We're going to need another scripting file, but this time this one's going to store which nation owns which army and how many armies that nation has. So this is going to be our armies manager. Okay, so it was at this point when I've got all this set up that I realized I'm going to need some center points in my regions, otherwise the armies won't know where to go or where Paris is, for example. So our bonus objective is we're going to add some center points. So to do this, we're going to need to go into the main, and we're going to use this function called calculate region centers. And basically what it's doing is it's looking at the texture, then averaging the center coordinates by basically looking where the color is on the texture itself. And you can see the code in a bit more detail if you pause it right now. Okay, so running the code, you'll notice that the program doesn't run straight away, and that is because it's now doing a lot more work than I was expecting it to do. So it loads the regions, loads the masks, player set nation to France, and still nothing, and there's our region center codes for Reykjavik. That's right, it's taken that long to do one region. We have over 100. We were running this code every time the player wants to play it. It'll be one of the longest intros ever. We're possibly looking at over several hours to play one game. So this is, while it works, we are getting the coordinates that we need for the center points. It's far too much for a user to expect to wait 2 hours to play a game. So what we can do is we can copy those coordinates and put it into JSON itself. However, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to have it running, and then I'm going to get it to export to the JSON file for me. So in addition to the calculate centers, we're also going to open the file access, and we're going to write to the file so we can get Godot to do it for us. So when I'm ready, we're going to calculate the region centers, then run the other function, save region centers to the JSON. So this is what the JSON file looks like at the moment, where we've got the name, the population, the oil and the GDP. And then in theory, if this works, we're going to have a section there that says center that's going to store the center points. Running it now just to see if this works. Okay, so once again it's taking its time, no surprises here. So set the nation to France, set in the regions, and then it starts going through trying to do the calculations for each region again. However, this time what's happening in the background is every time it does the center points, it's going to be writing them to that file that stores all our information about our nations. So at this point I can just well, I can't check it because the file's in access, but I can come back in a couple of hours and then check the JSON file at that point. So several hours later, this is what it looks like now. So it's added the center, it's added it above all the details, and yeah, that's exactly what I want. Okay, so bonus objective done. Okay, so let's get our army to spawn, make it clickable, and then move the army around to capture regions. So we're going to be removing a function first, which is the remove calculate center region, and we're going to replace it with this function called show region center. And we're also going to make another scripting file which we're going to attach to our army sprite, and we're going to call this function this scripting file Armies.gd, and we're also going to check if these armies can find these center points. So we're going to do a little test first before we add the clickable stuff to it. So in terms of code, in the army.gd, we are going to basically have this block of code here, and we're just going to declare a bunch of variables just to see if things pop up and it connects to the center. In the army managers, what you're going to see is this function here called spawn army. And going back to the main, we're going to have this bit all in the ready, where we're basically going to use the spawn army function from the other scripting file. And you can see that I've attached the texture. It's a very simple one I've done in Photoshop of just a small tank that I've just crudely drawn. I'm not particularly happy with it at the moment, so I will likely change this texture. So everything is kind of in alpha at the moment. I know that that tank will get lost with the background. So in our ready, we're just going to be checking if our show region centers works. So hopefully when we run this function, we should have a tank icon over every region center point. Okay, so waiting for it to load. And you can see we've got the icon over every single region on the planet. It looks a little bit messy because the icon's quite big, but you can kind of see that they are equally in the middle of each region. So that's good. So what I did is I just redesigned the image to make it a bit smaller. Okay, so now let's try and make it clickable. So in the army.gd, we're going to remove all the code and just keep it to 2 lines, because we're not checking the center points anymore. We just want to spawn one army over, say, Paris. I think Paris is probably a good test point, and see if we can take some territories with it. So now in the armies manager, what we're going to do is we're going to just double check that our spawn army function's working as intended. So just have a quick look. That looks fine as it is. Feel free to stop the code and have a look if you need to. And in the main, what we are going to do now is we are going to basically just have our start region be in Paris, so we know where our tank's going to spawn. Later on, we can then change that variable for whatever the user inputs or whatever the user builds. And then it's going to keep referring to spawn army and get region center, so it knows where Paris actually is and stuff. Okay, so we run the code now with everything we've just done. We should hopefully only have one icon spawn this time, and it should be over Paris. Okay, so all the other tanks are gone, and now we just have this one icon right there. We can't click on it, but it's clearly spawned in the correct location. So we've managed to spawn an army. So the final bit will be to make the army clickable and make the army to move and capture regions. So to do this, in our army scene, we're going to need to add a couple of extra nodes. So first of all, we're going to add a sprite 2D, and this is basically going to represent who owns the sprite. So basically, if you click it, it has an outline to it. So we're just going to have it as select ring, and we're going to have another one, which is basically going to be our collision stuff. So we're going to use an area 2D, and then inside of the area 2D, we're going to have a child node called collision 2D. Now, whenever you add a collision shape 2D, it will give you a warning message because you need to declare what shape it is. So with the collision shape 2D selected, make sure you select what shape it is, and I'm going to set the radius to about 32 as well, which basically means how big the actual clickable shape is going to be. Right, so this is our function for the left mouse button. So what I've got it set to, if you left click a region, all of the region information panel stuff will still show up. Otherwise we're going to end up not knowing what we're clicking on. And then I'm going to have the right mouse button for commanding armies and stuff. So you can right click to select an army, and you can right click to say where it needs to go to. That should hopefully try and make it a little bit clearer. But if I change my mind, we can always swap them around. It's not a big problem. And then in the Armies Manager, we've got this now. So there's been a slight change to our spawn army, but not a massive amount of code. The sprite Z index means the icon is above everything, so you can actually click it without it thinking of other things. We're also going to need an army selection function and a function for deselecting basically the army. And then finally, we've got an extra function there for moving army to region. And function on army region, army reached region. And this is where we use the function capture region that I made quite a few videos ago, which I knew would end up needing at some point. So that was in the video where we did region ownership. So just do a quick recap. You can see all the code I've got in here. There's my ArmiesManager.gd with my capture region inside, and there's my standard army.gd. And now if we run it, you can see that an army has spawned on Paris. Now we don't have a selection ring enabled at this moment. I haven't set any colors to it, so when the army is selected it's not quite as obvious. But if you right click it and then right click a region, the tank does move. So we have got a moving icon. There are no restrictions currently where the tank can and cannot go, so he can fly over the ocean if it needs to. Not realistic, but we can change that later, it's not a problem. But you can see that as we click on regions, it's just slowly conquering regions for France. So yeah, that's all working. So we've got an army spawned, we've got center points, we've made an army clickable, and we've made an army move and capture regions, which is pretty much all the goals for today. So thank you for watching. Any questions, leave them in the comments, and if you liked the video, by all means like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.